Okay, looks like we're ready here. I will call this meeting to order, and if clerk would do roll call.
Absolutely. Board Member San Antonio?
Present.
Board Member Schaefer?
Here.
Board Member O'Hara?
Here.
Vice President Ehlers?
Here.
And President Lyons is absent. And quickly, before we get into the Pledge of Allegiance, San Diego Water District board members receive an independent stipend of $100 for convening the Water District meetings pursuant to San Diego Water District Resolution Number 89-07.
Thank you. And third item is Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me in the pledge. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see, tonight we have no special presentations or proclamations, and do we have any public comments?
We do not under oral communications.
Okay, which we had moves us on to item 6, and we did not have a San Diego Water District closed session, so there's no report. If the clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda, and no
Okay.
items have been removed from the consent calendar.
Excellent. And does anybody wish to pull anything on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion to approve.
That was a different order. So Marco seconded and Jim made the motion, and we will call the question.
That motion carries unanimously with President Lyons absent.
And that brings us to our only action item, which is the item S10. And that is a public hearing for consideration of adopting resolutions authorizing adjustments to the San Diego Water District's miscellaneous fees and deposits with contact person, principal engineer Alex. And with that, we'll go to a staff report.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Vice President Ehlers and directors of the San Diego Board of Directors, San Diego Water District. Elmer Alex, Principal Engineer at the district. The item I have before you again is the public hearing for the consideration of adopting resolutions authorizing adjustments to San Diego Water District's miscellaneous fees and deposits. A brief agenda of the items we're going to be covering this afternoon is I'll give you the background for this item, talk about the staff's analysis in developing this item, and then the public noticing requirements, and then staff's recommendations. A little background, miscellaneous fees are primarily developer-initiated actions such as parcel maps and plan checks, often also quick claims, easements, and encroachments that deal with the district's right-of-way, and also the installation of water services and water meters. Miscellaneous charges are typically things from customer-initiated things such as return check charges and water service turnoffs. The goal of these fees are for full cost recovery, and full cost recovery avoids subsidizing these services with general water rates. In March 2024, the board adopted resolution number 2024-02, which established new fees starting July 1st, 2024. These increased miscellaneous fees also on an annual fiscal year basis. So for construction-related fees, the board approved increasing those fees using the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index, and for the non-construction related fees using the Consumer Price Index for the prior calendar year. In October of 2024, board recommended some adjustments to some of the fees. Some of the fees were flat and didn't take into account the complexity of some projects. So for parcel maps and plan checks, The board recommended we look at moving from a flat fee to a per sheet fee basis. This was based on looking at the neighboring water districts and also how the city's engineering department also charges fees. And also they wanted to look at the meter and service installation based on location of the water main in the street to the property. So often we have two scenarios. One is what we call the long side installation, where the water main is on the opposite side of the meter from the house. And then the short side, where the water main is on the same side of the street as the property. You can see how much difference there is relative to the length of trench and effort needed. So the first part of the analysis we're looking at is the report on the CPI. So the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics said for the previous calendar year that 3.1% increase in the consumer price index. Those were applied to the non-construction related fees shown in Exhibit A of the resolution. The Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index reported an increase from March of the previous year of 3.7%, and that was applied to the construction-related fees. So going into how we calculated a per sheet for the parcel maps, improvement plans, and grading plans, and conflict checks, we analyzed the average number of sheets we were looking on the different plan check types. Then we developed a cost per sheet and then applied that cost per sheet to the CPI because it's a non-construction related fee of 3.1%. So the table below shows for parcel maps, we were averaging about 2 sheets, improvement plans about 3 sheets, and the grading, building plans, and conflict check types were only averaging 1 sheet. So taking that current fee and dividing by the average sheets gave us our cost per sheet, and then we applied the 3.1% CPI, and we're proposing a new proposed fee per sheet shown there and also shown in Exhibit A. The third component where we were asked to look at was the installation of potable water meters and services by the district. These are often for developments or construction projects. The most populous type of installation that staff was requested to install was a 3/4, what's called a dual meter, which is a 3/4 inch and a 1 inch meter. The 3/4 inch is for indoor domestic use, and the 1 inch is for the fire sprinkler system. We reviewed all the costs for the previous 2 calendar years, 2023 and 2024, and analyzed the different categories based on how long these trench installations were. So staff was recommending from the flat fees to develop 3 categories. One is a short side, where the installation is approximately 12 feet or less. And then the long side would be greater than 12 feet, but less than equal to 32 feet. These are actually based on city street dimensions, so we made sure that it coincides with the way the city streets are designed. And the third category would be greater than 32 feet. We had several instances of these. They're sometimes cul-de-sacs or flag lots, and also the other category would also encompass those tasks where there's a city trench moratorium because there's increased paving requirements, and also if there's the street is concrete pavement because of the requirement that we just removed to the nearest joint or panels. The city doesn't allow us to just cut a certain trench. We have to remove certain panels of concrete street. So looking at that, we looked at average cost and looked at the statistical analysis. And for the short side and long side, the staff is recommending the average cost was $5,300 for the short side, and then we apply a construction cost index of 3.7%, shows a proposed fee of $5,500. And the dual meter for a long side, the average cost was $8,300. Applying the construction cost index shows a proposed fee moving forward of $8,600. For the other categories, those costs varied very widely from $12,000 to $15,000. So we're recommending for that, we're proposing that to be a time and material cost, where the minimum deposit put in by a developer would be $12,000. Any costs not Any funds not used toward the construction would be refundable to the developer. For the other meter sizes, there wasn't significant statistical data to be basing those costs on. So we looked at reviewing the material difference costs. So for the different meter sizes, usually the trenching costs are fairly equal, but the major difference is the actual appurtenances, like the size of the meter and the size of the meter box. So if you look at the current dual meter and service fee of $7,315, and then the current 3/4 inch meter and service, that's $6,465. That difference was $850. So using the dual meter short side, long sides as the basis for establishing the 3/4, we applied that $850 across both the short side and long side. So we have recommended 3/4 inch meter service is $4,650, and long side being $7,750. So this was applied through all the meter sizes shown on the agenda report and highlighted in Exhibit A of the resolutions. These type of fees required public notice 10 days prior to this public hearing. They were notified, the public was notified via the Coast News twice on April 4th and April 11th editions of the Coast News. So staff recommends conducting the public hearing and then adopt the San Diego Water District Resolution 2025-4, adjusting miscellaneous fees and deposits with the new fees in Exhibit A effective July 1st, 2025. And staff is available if you have any questions on these.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I'm following the staff report given. Okay. Ask the board to disclose any other information they've received that it's not included in the staff report. So we'll start down at the end there.
No, I don't have anything to report.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
And I too have nothing to disclose. So do we have any preliminary questions?
Oh, I guess.
And that's, do we
Gotta
have?
open the public hearing first.
Oh, okay. You can't answer my question until.
Yes, there are no speakers.
Okay. I just opened the public hearing. There are no speakers. Thank you. So I will close the public. You were afraid I wouldn't open and close it then, apparently. So then we can discuss and deliberate at this point.
Sure.
Anybody hit the button or no? There you go. You got it.
So, first off, I'm definitely in favor of moving to a per-page review. I had a question on, and I apologize if not keep track of which slide it was, but where we talked about the short and long, the short and long in the 8,000 feet and the 5,000 feet. There we go.
Yeah.
On that slide, I heard you say that we charge that much and then we return any remaining funds back to the
Okay.
person paying, right?
So that is for the other category where we require a time and materials and a deposit. So they put a deposit of minimum $12,000. We would track costs, real-time costs on that. At the closure of that, because it's a deposit, say if we only spent $11,000, we would have to return the $1,000 to that developer.
So on those meters, do we do maintenance or they do maintenance?
Though these are our public meters, so we own those meters.
So is there a reason we don't keep the money and put it towards the maintenance?
The coverage of the maintenance is generally covered through the customer rates, the monthly service rates, bi-monthly service rates.
But there's no reason we don't do it this way. We just do it through the service rates. That's not right.
Yes.
And doesn't cost us, we don't lose any money in that, giving the money back, the transaction, time and all that, there's no way to. Would it be, is there, it seems to me that we take this deposit, but then I'm just curious if there's a way to keep that money for maintenance and then not have to pass it on to the other customers.
So we can only, for these types of services, we can only collect what is reasonably cost us to do the work for the specific work.
That's why it's a deposit and not a fee.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. Clarification. Great report.
Yep. And I too appreciate the report. I was going to ask one question. It's more about the funding and how it works. This is basically an enterprise fund, so all the fees and all the costs of the water all pay for, and exactly, there should be no profit, correct? It's all closed fund.
No profit or subsidy.
No, yeah, exactly. Either way,
Either
plus
way.
or minus. So,
Has
so
to
the
be
fee,
exactly the same
the
cost.
fees are designed, and I'll make a statement too. I was on the board a year ago when we adopted this new fee structure, where we went to the short and long, and then the time and material based for the ones that were kind of exception cases, and I appreciate that. So, and I think this is the first annual increase that we also decided to adopt a year ago. I should say the council a year ago decided to adopt. So we're just seeing the nuts and bolts now coming together. So, and the whole idea is it should allocate the cost to the actual user and not make a profit and not have a subsidy in the end. So it's supposed to be revenue neutral or profit neutral.
Yep.
What was my other question? The increased paving requirement you mentioned during a trenching moratorium. What is that? Does that mean they have to seal edge to edge or something during? I assume it's just during the moratorium period, right?
It's during the moratorium period, so if we had a developer request a water and service meter that was recently paved by the city would impose a paving moratorium. That usually increases the paving by about 10 feet on each side of the trench.
Okay, so you wouldn't have the little slit or wherever, or a small patch, you would have a
Correct.
much bigger one.
Yes.
Because we have, and I forget, anybody recall what the moratorium is? Is it a year or 3 years? It was one or multiple years? I think
It's
I
multiple, so I think it's, I
So in
believe-
other words, when we have a brand-new paved road, we try and stop everybody, including utilities, from going and digging it up, but obviously, things happen.
Right, if someone needs water to bring water service, there is, the moratorium allows for that to happen. However, there's increased paving requirements to ensure that, the integrity of the paving is maintained.
So, thank you, I thought it was a good report.
Would that include, like, a repave, like we approved last week, or is that just when the road is paved for the first time?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
It sounded like it was about a 10-foot addition on the patching.
Or
Yes.
no, so I'm asking, last week we approved the PCI improvement. Does that include after the PCI improvement, or is that only the very first time that it has been paved?
It's after the PCI improvement. It's literally every time you resurface a road, we have a moratorium, and I can't remember the number of years, but I want to say 2 or 3.
I believe it's 3, but I'm not positive. But
Yeah, and it
usually
was
3 years.
1, I think, and we increased it to 3.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good idea because you don't want to keep hacking up your brand-new pavement, so. I don't see any other speakers. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve unless there's somebody else who wants to speak.
I'm not going to speak. Motion to approve.
A second.
Okay. I have a motion to approve in a second, and with that, I will call the question.
Motion carries unanimously with President Lyons absent.
Great. Let's see. And that takes us to item S11, informational items, which are none. Item S12, board member reports pursuant to AB 1234. Do we have any of those, starting with, no, I got nothing?
Councilmember Schaefer and I attended the Sailing Hoe Joint Power Water District meeting. We went over the upcoming budget. They always amaze me, just like our water district. They are
buttoned up tight and really doing some great projections. They're actually trying to adjust their the rate at which they increase their cost to their customers, which is in a way that is, lack of a better way to put it, considerate. And it's really refreshing to see, and it's amazing to see them in action down there.
Cool. And I have nothing to report, so that brings us on to item S13, General Manager Update.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ehlers. Next month, we were going to be introducing the budget for the SDWD Water District, and as you know, that's going to be impacted by the County Water Authority rate increases. Obviously, they will not be approving those until sometime in July or August, so we're going to be estimating how much it's going to be. It seems like it's going to be like last year, a double-digit number. One of the things that we are working with the general manager of the County Water Authority, going over their budget, both on the CIP and operation. There has been a couple of workshops that has been conducted for the member agencies, general managers with CWA. There's a workshop also for the County Water Authority Board at the end of this month, both on the 29th and 30th, that I will be attending or listening to. It depends on my schedule. So when we introduce the budget next year, we will have a better understanding of what the rates could be. One of the things that we are actually evaluating as a district is, since these numbers are increasing on an annual basis, that we start looking into a different rate structure by having a pass-through of those rates, like most of other agencies. Whenever there is an increase in by the CWA cost, that will become passed through to our customers. We have not gone that route. We will need to get somebody, to a consultant, to actually go through that process, which will be next year, so that we can avoid having to do estimates and fail as we go through the year based on whatever we predict the actual rate increases from CWA would be. That concludes my report.
And just a quick question or clarification on that. Prop 218, does that impact using a pass-through structure? In other words, how do you?
Yes, we will have to go through a 218 process in order to have a pass-through, but you can do it, for example, for 5 years or more, depending on what the law allows you to do.
And then subsequent increases from the water authority are not subject to a subsequent 218 study?
They will not be during the period that is allocated, but we still have to do our own rate study, because keep in mind, we have to take our fixed costs into consideration and figure out what the rate that we as a district need to add to the cost of water to our customers.
Appreciate the report, and I think that was it for the agenda. And with that, I will adjourn. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
That's what we like. 25 minutes.